Hey guys, and welcome to our lesson on Japanese anime and manga. Some of you guys may actually know this information already because I know a lot of you already read Japanese manga and watch anime as well. It's a super popular form of entertainment. I definitely like quite a bit of it, and I highly recommend you check it out after this. So let's go ahead and get started. So, an anime is a style of animation or cartoon that was developed in Japan. So, it's their version of cartoon animations. And the characters in the setting in this art form are either drawn by hand or they're computer generated, the same way that we actually will do our own uh, animations, like Disney films and stuff like that. And anime is very closely related to manga or Japanese comic books. So, manga stories are usually told through a series of panels, just like a comic book does. And many of the anime films are actually based on the art and the stories in popular manga. And so, an anime film may actually use manga panels to introduce the story before they actually go into basically watching it in an animated movie. So the beginnings of anime. Anime films, they were produced actually in the early 1900s. This was before Disney, but the current style and technique, it didn't develop until the 1960s. So what you see today is actually a little more recent than you might think. And around that time, there was one manga artist and animator, Osamu Tezuka, and he began to adapt some of his techniques based off of Walt Disney and Walt Disney's films. So, Disney cartoons like Bambi actually inspired him to draw these characters with those large eyes, which is what you usually see in an anime and manga now. They usually have those giant eyes, very expressive eyes. And so anime uses these elements from the Western style of cartoons, but it draws on Japanese culture rather than American culture. And some of the techniques are actually still Japanese, but they took some of those from Walt Disney and from our modern cartoons. So a lot of the types of things they'll discuss in anime and manga are these Japanese myths and Shinto and Buddhism myths that have influenced several of the cartoons. And Shinto and Buddhism, those are forms of religions. So, for one example, Shinto nature spirits, they populate the world that's in this film called Spirited Away, that was made in 2001. So there's all kinds of different nature spirits, and that's a big part of the Shinto religion. So, popularity, because we all know they're very popular. So, anime was a popular art form in Japan in the beginning, but Western audiences, so like the United States, they didn't start embracing it for about 20 years. And even still, then, it's been very slowly integrated into our culture today. Since then, anime, it's got a lot of fans and a whole lot more respect around the world. One of the reasons for anime's popularity, broad range of subjects. Anime tells all kinds of different forms like fantasy, science fiction, as well as historical or religion, and actually appeals to all ages and all genders because of this, because it tells all these different types of stories. Usually in cartoons, you don't see that broad of a range. I can't actually think off the top of my head at this moment a Disney film that is science fiction. Um, there are things like Wall-E that Pixar has made, but it's not quite the same. Anime has embraced this one singular art form and taken all these different subjects rather than different types of animation and art forms that are across all of our different cartoons that we watch. Because there's a lot of different art forms that we see when we watch a cartoon. And so anime has slowly become a big business in Japan because of this. The art form and all of the products that are related to anime, they actually earn over $5 billion a year. And that's just going to slowly increase as it gains even more popularity. And so I have a couple examples for you guys to show the difference between US comic books as opposed to manga. And so we'll go ahead and take a look for that. So here is manga, and it might look like I am holding it almost like backwards. And that's because in Japan, the way you read a book is completely different than in the US. So in the US, we would hold the book up like this, and we would read left to right. In Japan, you reverse it, and now you're going to read it right to left. And you can see some of the different art forms in there and how that is different. You can see the huge eyes that are very expressive. And then you also read it in a totally different perspective, going right to left rather than left to right that we do here in the US, which is super cool. And so Japanese anime and manga, they actually ended up influencing us in the US to start creating comic books, which I am a massive fan of. And to show the difference in those art forms, I have a comic book here for you guys. Of course, it's Captain Marvel, because you know me, my absolute favorite superhero. And when you open them up, we're still reading left to right instead, and the art form is completely different from Japanese manga and Japanese anime. Two totally different art styles, and in the US we have even more than just that, because if you watch SpongeBob versus Scooby-Doo, totally different art forms being used in the animation styles. Japanese anime and manga has combined, united all of them together to be almost the exact same across the board. There are a little bit of difference between actual artists, but they're pretty uniform. So the words to know: anime, manga, Osamu Tezuka, the person who actually brought in the big eyes and stuff like that, and then the religion Shinto. And so I added on the end here just a quick step-by-step way that you can actually draw your own manga, and I hope some of you guys actually utilize that. I know some of you will. And then I wanted to take a quick second to just remind you guys to please turn in your work for feedback. We're trying to see how many of you guys are actually participating in stuff, and it's important to us to know that you are enjoying it and that you're staying engaged. It doesn't have to be for feedback. You could just do a quick check-in. I love to hear from you guys. I know a bunch of you are using this information, but I'm not actually getting work back. And so I just want you guys to do that. And I'm going to have a quick goodbye video next week. So just tune in to when we're actually watching some anime together at the end of this week. Model UN, we're going to do our virtual Model UN. Make sure you're researching your countries and do your cookbooks. All right? Stay safe, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.